Hey guys, what is up and welcome back to the channel. In my previous video where I announced the release of Cemu 1.12.1, I asked you guys exactly what games you would like to see me test in this version. After going through all the comments on that video, I have a list of 9 games including Breath of the Wild, which, as you can see right now, is still running perfectly on Cemu 1.12.1. So the other games that I am going to be testing are Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Bayonetta 2, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Super Smash Bros. 4, Splatoon, Hyrule Warriors, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, and Tekken Tag Tournament 2 Wii U Edition. All games on this list, apart from Breath of the Wild, which I am currently playing, are best played when using a single core recompiler with Cemu emulator. If there are any special settings or any game profile edits that are needed to be made in order to get these games to correctly run and run to the best of their ability, I will make you aware of them while we are looking at that game's compatibility. I will also put some timestamps down in the description of this video that will bring you to the exact time in this video where your selected game will be tested. Okay, so first of all, let's jump into our first game, Bayonetta 2. So during my testing of Bayonetta 2, I had some fairly serious issues with crashing, and I actually figured out that it was Cemu's option experimental setting GX2 Draw Done, an option that fixes the flickering you can see on some of the NPCs and enemies in this game that was actually causing this crashing. Bayonetta 2 on Cemu 1.12.1 also suffers from severe audio desync, which means that the audio in-game that your characters will say in cutscenes, and also the audio that you will hear in-game will be completely out of sync. Unfortunately, on Cemu 1.12.1, Bayonetta 2 is not what I would consider to be playable. If you do want to play Bayonetta 2, I would highly advise that you use Cemu builds either 1.9.1 or 1.11.1, as they are the most compatible versions for this game. Moving swiftly on, let's take a look at Tokyo Mirage Sessions. So even though this game did actually boot for the first time in Cemu 1.11.4, it is not actually until right now in Cemu 1.12.1 that this game can be considered very playable. Not only are the majority of the graphics correctly rendered, but I have also played about 6 or 7 hours of this game now, and I have not encountered a game-breaking bug so far. In my opinion, I would rate this game as playable in Cemu 1.12.1. Let's keep the ball rolling and move on to our next game, Xenoblade Chronicles X. With Xenoblade Chronicles X, or XCX as it's known in the community, we have another game which is considered a fan favorite on both the Wii U and Cemu emulator. Unfortunately, in Cemu 1.12.1, even though the game itself does have better compatibility and doesn't crash as much as the previous few Cemu builds, it still does softlock in some occasions in some levels of the game. If you want to have the best possible experience in Xenoblade Chronicles X on Cemu emulator, I would once again advise that you use Cemu 1.9.1 in order to play this game. Moving swiftly on, let's take a look at Super Smash Bros. 4. As with the past few Cemu builds, Super Smash Bros. 4 works perfectly in Cemu 1.12.1. Please do be aware though that if you want to play some of the all-star game modes and indeed use the online functionality for multiplayer in this game on Cemu emulator, you are going to need to have dumped the appropriate files from your Wii U. For anybody who wants to find out how to dump these selected files, I will list an article which gives you all of the details you will need down in the description of this video. In order to get this game running to the maximum of its potential, you are going to need to have RDTSC turned on in Cemu's option experimental menu, and you are also going to need to use single core recompiler. A lot of people have also reported extensive crashing in this game when using GX2 Draw Done, so I would also advise setting that to off. That's about it for Smash Bros. 4, let's move along to our next title, Splatoon. So for anyone who's not aware, in Cemu 1.12.0 there was a bug which meant that if you did not have your online files dumped from your Wii U, you would not actually be able to fully boot Splatoon. This has been changed in Cemu 1.12.1, meaning that this game can now be fully played on the latest version. When you first boot into this game, you will actually have to fulfill a tutorial before you can actually get into the main game. This is actually quite annoying due to the fact that in this tutorial you are actually forced to use motion controls to aim your controller up and down. As long as you have mapped to the Wii U gamepad and not the Pro Controller, as you can see me doing right now, you will actually be able to do all of your aiming with your mouse by simply holding your right mouse button and shooting with ZR. Any of the stutter you are seeing on screen right now is only due to the fact that I have not a full shader cache built for this game. This is mostly due to the fact that I haven't played this tutorial in quite a while, as I had been actually using my save files from previous Cemu versions. When you actually load into the game's main hub world that I'm in right now, you should see this weird shadow appearing in front of you. This shadow will not happen the second time you load into game. If you wish to turn off your motion controls and use only your thumbsticks, all you have to do is press the tab key, come to this options menu and select motion controls off. This will give you control of all of your cameras and movement with your thumbsticks. Please be aware that in Splatoon, you are also going to need to activate the graphics pack titled SplatFX. You can find it in the graphics pack repository. Let's quickly move on to our next title, Hyrule Warriors. Once again, Hyrule Warriors is another game that works perfectly on a Cemu 1.12.1. Please be aware that in order to play this game properly, you are going to need to have it updated to its latest version, V208, similarly to the version number of Breath of the Wild. Hyrule Warriors on Cemu emulator actually also has a 60 FPS patch. Please be aware though that if your PC is not strong enough to maintain 60 FPS at all times, this patch is not going to fully work for you. There is also another graphics pack titled a DLC Fix in the graphics pack repository. You are going to need to update this game's DLC and activate this graphics pack in order to play all of the content that this game has to offer. Let's move on to our second last game title for this video, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. So lots of Cemu users report frame rate drops in this game, however I myself have not seen any of these performance issues, at least in this game title. It must be noted that in this gameplay you are seeing right here, in which I am being completely locked to 60 FPS practically at all times apart from some minor shader related stutter, I am actually using conventional shaders in Cemu 1.12.1. In order to activate this shader type, you simply go to Cemu Options, scroll down to Experimental, and then in that section you simply need to disable separable shaders. Once you have this separable shader box unticked, you will simply need to load your game and you will indeed be using conventional shaders. Once again, you are going to need to be using a single core recompiler for this game title. And finally, we come to the last game on my list of games to test, and quite an odd one considering how many people have requested it. Let's quickly take a look at Tekken Tag Tournament 2 Wii U Edition. So, in this game, for the most part, everything seems to be behaving normally. The only weird issue I noticed in the in-game menus was the fact that when you first load in, the sound is slightly distorted even if you have RDTSC turned on. However, the biggest issue you are going to find in this game actually occurs when you actually fully load into game. So I'm just going to pick my tag team duo of Hwoarang and Jin Kazama, and let's actually see what graphics are like in these menus. As you can see, when we come through these menus and we're actually doing the introductions of the fighters, you could actually see that the bottom half of Jin's leg wasn't rendered correctly, and also you're going to see some fairly funky graphics when we actually get into the fight. So as you can see there, when we actually loaded in, we got some slight texture blowout, and as you can also see, practically whatever color, it's kind of random. I think it's dependent on what actual effects are rendered on screen. You will actually see that your character's model will actually incorporate those colors somehow into the actual game. There is also a strange kind of flickering. It looks like a static on screen that was picked up on the actual recording but wasn't present in the game. You can also see that on Jin Kazama's actual right leg right now, it is not actually rendered correctly at all. Now, while there are severely massive graphical issues as you can see in the game right now, the performance was actually fairly consistently solid, and even though the graphics are kind of messed up, I would almost say this game is kind of playable if you're willing to put up with the weird graphical issues that happen from time to time. So that's about it, guys. Those are all of the most highly requested games that you guys have asked me to test on Cemu 1.12.1. This video itself is a new format of a video that I am going to be doing the day after every single new Cemu release happens. Basically, how it's going to work is when I do my announcement video for the next Cemu build, all you have to do is leave a comment down in the comment section of that video, and that will tell me exactly what games you guys want me to test on the newest and most up-to-date Cemu emulator version. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of this idea, and do you think it's a good idea for testing games in the Cemu community. So once again guys, cheers for checking out the video. Remember to like it if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't. If you want to help support the channel, you can do so by pledging and supporting BSoD Gaming over on my Patreon. A link for that is down in the description. And as always, subscribe to the channel if you want to see all future videos from me.